In the early 1950s, Iran was moving toward democracy. Its Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh made a bold decision. He nationalized Iran's oil industry, which had long been controlled by foreign companies. For many Iranians, this was a moment of pride, reclaiming their country's wealth. But for Western powers, it was a threat. In 1953, intelligence agencies from the United States and Britain orchestrated a covert operation to remove Mossadegh from power. The Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who had fled the country, was restored to the throne, this time with expanded authority. Backed by Western support, the Shah ruled with increasing authoritarian control. His secret police crushed dissent. Political opposition was suppressed, economic inequality widened. For many Iranians, democracy had been stolen, and the resentment would simmer for decades. By the late 1970s, anger against the Shah had reached a breaking point. But this was not one revolution. It was many. Students demanded freedom. Workers demanded economic justice. Liberals demanded democracy. Leftists demanded socialism. Religious leaders demanded moral reform. Millions filled the streets. Strikes shut down the economy. Protests spread across the country. Security forces opened fire on crowds. Thousands were killed in demonstrations. As unrest grew, the Shah lost control. In January 1979, he fled Iran. Weeks later, an exiled cleric returned to a nation in upheaval, Ruhollah Khomeini. He was welcomed by millions. The monarchy had fallen, but the future of Iran was still undecided. After the revolution, Iranians voted in a national referendum. Nearly 98% supported creating an Islamic republic. But what that meant was still unclear. Many revolutionaries expected democracy. Instead, power consolidated around religious leadership. A new constitution introduced the concept of Velayat-e Faqih rule by an Islamic jurist. At the top stood the supreme leader. Revolutionary courts began swift trials. Former officials were executed. Opposition newspapers shut down. Political activists disappeared. Groups that had helped overthrow the Shah, including leftists and liberals, soon became targets. Thousands more fled into exile. The revolution was no longer unified. It was becoming ideological. In 1980, Iraq's leader Saddam Hussein invaded Iran, hoping to exploit the country's instability. Instead, the attack triggered one of the longest and deadliest wars of the 20th century. The conflict lasted 8 brutal years. Trench warfare stretched across the desert. Missiles struck major cities. Chemical weapons were used on Iranian troops. Teenage volunteers were sent across minefields. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble. An estimated 500,000 to 1 million people died across both nations. The war reshaped Iran. It strengthened nationalism. It silenced internal dissent. It elevated revolutionary institutions. One force rose in power during the conflict: Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Created to defend the revolution, it would become one of the most powerful institutions in Iran. The war ended in 1988 without clear victory, but Iran had been transformed. The early years after the revolution were marked by violence, not only from war, but from internal conflict. Armed opposition groups, including the People's Mujahideen of Iran, MEK, launched bombings and assassinations targeting government officials. In 1981, a massive bombing killed dozens of senior leaders. The government responded with overwhelming force. Mass arrests swept the country. Opposition networks were dismantled. Prisons filled with political detainees. Throughout the early 1980s, thousands were executed following rapid revolutionary trials. But the darkest chapter came in 1988, as the Iran-Iraq War was ending. Secret orders led to mass executions of political prisoners. Human rights groups estimate between 4,000 and 30,000 prisoners were executed in a matter of weeks. Many were buried in unmarked graves. Families were never told where their loved ones were buried. Fear became embedded in everyday life. The revolution had eliminated its most organized opposition. While war raged and dissent was crushed, another transformation was underway. Iran's leadership sought to reshape society itself. Universities were closed from 1980 to 1983. The goal: remove Western and secular influence. Thousands of professors and teachers were dismissed. Curricula were rewritten. Education was redesigned to reflect Islamic ideology. This period became known as the Cultural Revolution. Dress codes became mandatory. Women were required to wear hijab. Media and arts were strictly regulated. The state sought not only political control, but cultural and moral control. Iran was no longer just politically transformed, it was socially re-engineered. Ruhollah Khomeini did not create a typical dictatorship. Instead, he built a hybrid system, combining elections with religious authority. On the surface, citizens vote, there is a president, there is a parliament. But above them all sits the supreme leader. The supreme leader controls the armed forces, state broadcasting, the judiciary, key political appointments. A powerful body called the Guardian Council can veto laws passed by parliament, disqualify candidates from elections. Another body, the Assembly of Experts, selects and supervises the supreme leader. Meanwhile, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps evolved into an elite military force, a major economic power, a regional geopolitical actor. This structure ensures that elections exist, but ultimate authority remains with religious leadership. It is a system designed to preserve the revolution permanently. In 1989, Ruhollah Khomeini died. He was succeeded by Ali Khamenei, who remains supreme leader today. The revolutionary system endured. Over the decades, Iran has faced economic sanctions, international isolation, reform movements, waves of protest. A young, educated population has pushed for greater freedoms. Major protests erupted in 1999, 2009, 2019, 2022. Each time, the state responded with force. Yet the revolutionary structure remains intact. Today's Iran is shaped by the memory of foreign interference, the trauma of revolution and war, a powerful religious political system, a society divided between tradition and modern aspirations. Iran is not easily understood through headlines. It is a nation shaped by revolution, sacrifice, repression, ideology, and resilience. And its story is still unfolding.